Well, hello people, and welcome to a little bit more Cities Skylines 2 coverage. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Today is the day we will look at the final of the Dev Diaries, which is the 11th one. There are more planned after this, but they're on sound and music and the cinematic camera, so I don't think we really need to cover those on the channel, since they're not really gameplay focused. But this final one is on the Citizen Simulation and Life Path, so let's see what's in store this week, shall we?
You might think that city building is all about glass and steel, bricks and mortar, tarmac, smokestacks, and iron tracks. But it's also about joy and laughter.
There's something a little odd, isn't there, about the way they're walking here. If you can look at these kids right in the foreground in the green hoodie, their arms look very, very stiff, like they're quite rigid, don't they? A little odd. Again, this is obviously recorded on a beta. Hopefully that's a little smoother by the time we get the release version.
Sadness and tears. Struggles, triumphs, even love. That's because city building is about people. While the behavior of your city citizens is rooted in deep simulation, they aren't guided by ones and zeros. They follow very real human impulses on their life path. A life path encompasses major events that shape their lives. It starts with being born in or moving to your city. Everything after that, from their first day of school to college graduation, their first big promotion to retirement, their nervous first date to tying the knot, is just another step on their life path.
Interesting that they're going to go on first dates and stuff. We're going to see actual relationships forming between the Sims. This all sounds really cool, and I like that this extra layer of depth has been added to the game. My only concern is, I know that when I'm sat there playing cities, and of course this is going to be different for everyone, but when I am sat there playing cities, I don't stop building the city and detailing it to go off and check if the first sim has got married yet. It sounds cool in theory, again, but in practice I just don't think I'm going to overly care about stuff like this in the game.
Most days will be uneventful. Citizens will follow a routine of attending school, working, and spending free time with friends and family. But like the rest of us, they'll have good days and bad.
That's really cool there. You see those pedestrians crossing the road as they realise the van is turning right. They actually start to run to get out of the crossing in time. That's really cool. That's a great bit of like kind of citizen simulation. That's a nice little detail that's added in there. It's pretty cool.
Citizens can fall ill, suffer accidents, lose their job and become homeless, commit crimes and face the consequences. On the flip side, citizens reap the benefits when your city thrives. These happy citizens stay and contribute as they get older, until it's their time to line up at heaven's pearly gates.
So interesting there, isn't it? How they can really go through kind of a turbulent life. They go from being stable and having a job to losing their job, becoming homeless, committing crime and eventually going to jail. Again, it's all really cool to have included in a city simulator. I guess we just need to kind of play the release version and just see how much we actually go back to check on that. Are we going to do it maybe, I don't know, twice every hour of gameplay? I just don't know how impactful and important that's going to be in kind of the hour-to-hour gameplay of Cities 2.
Happiness is something you can actually measure in City Skylines 2. It's a score that tallies an individual's health and well-being. You can track happiness on each citizen's information panel. View the panel for their household to learn what's contributing or detracting from their collective happiness. Get the basics right, and citizens will basically be happy. Ensure they have a reliable electricity supply, clean water, decent plumbing, and regular garbage collection. Minimize ground, air, and noise pollution. Keep a lid on crime so citizens feel safe. High-speed internet is pretty much a must-have, and so is a suitable home. Families need space, so they'll benefit from living in larger homes in low-density.
Getting more look again at the low-density homes here again. It's nice, isn't it? I'm a big fan of the new gardens that now surround what appears to be the low-density residential buildings. Little sheds, pools, sun lounges, greenhouses, bushes, just much more detail on the actual zonable assets themselves. I'm a big fan of that.
Density areas where kids can roam freely. Small apartments are best for singles and students who want low rents in busy areas where they can go out and socialize. Healthcare is non-negotiable. Without it, citizens can die from illness and injuries. Even with good sanitation and low pollution, citizens need medical facilities near enough to travel on their own steam or by ambulance for routine care. This is especially important for your city's elderly population, whose health won't always be tip-top. Seniors are actually in the last of the 4 life stages your citizens will experience. They might even live in a multi-generational home with citizens in the other life stages, including children, teens, and adults. And look out for 4-legged family members too.
Always happy to see the confirmation of dogs, but really cool to see they go through 4 life stages. I'm guessing kid, teen, adult, and elderly will be the 4.
Keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening with your citizens by viewing their life path journal. It records everything that happens to them from the moment you click follow. It'll show you personal details, their happiness score, and their Chirper feed. Oh, and one more thing, Chirper is back. Expanded and better integrated, Chirper now gives citizens a voice.
So Chirper is back. We're going to be getting those little chirps again. It's going to be interesting, isn't it, to see how many of us keep that function on. Because I know a lot of us turned off Chirper in CS1. So let's see what they're saying. We could really use some more residential buildings in the city right about now. And Carporco, which I'm guessing is an industry treat, a body or job studying. Come to work with us, find us at 158 Autumn Street. So again, is that really impactful information for Chirper to give us? Is it just more random bollocks that's tweeted from around the city? I'm not entirely sure on that one. I'll probably end up turning Chirper off again, I think.
They'll talk about what's going on in their lives and
if that's the kind of things he's going to be chirping at us, that is.
what's happening in the city. If their chirps get likes, you know just how important that topic is to them and other citizens.
Okay, that's pretty cool. So the like system actually means something. So Arthur Summers tweets, or chirps, I guess, "This city is incredibly noisy. I can barely hear myself think," has 9.5k likes. Which means that there's a lot of people in the city that also agree with that. So, okay, that's pretty cool. I really like that they've done that, that the chirper likes actually mean something. Didn't think that would be included, but very cool to see.
This can be helpful when they chirp to complain about underperforming city services.
Another one there as well from Paul Carpenter, isn't there? The smog is just unbearable. Someone should really deal with all this air pollution. 15.4k people like that. So you know that that air pollution is a real big thing for your Sims.
And applaud their excellent work. When it comes to the health, well-being, and happiness of your citizens, think quality, not quantity. By creating places, spaces, and experiences that enrich their lives.
There's this guy here in the black leather jacket has got some Slenderman vibes, hasn't he? There's something a little, I know this is a beta, but there's something a little unsettling about the way they move, isn't there?
You'll discover what city building is all about.
So indeed, Slenderman is what city building is all about according to the dev diary. Let's have a look at the blog now and see what we're missing, shall we? So we'll run across some points that I mentioned in the dev diary in the blog today and just kind of flesh out our understanding of exactly how these citizen simulation and life paths are going to actually play out in the game. So unfortunately, pets are just aesthetic. They don't affect citizen happiness, which is a real shame because there's a lot of information and studies about how pets can improve people's mental well-being. So kind of sad that isn't included in the game, but at least they are there. I'm happy to see dogs included. So now the citizens, they're going to grow up, they're going to go to school and find work, possibly lose that job, then become homeless and commit a crime. So it seems there's a big variation in how people's lives will unfold in City Skylines 2 now. I guess just like in the real world, right? You never know what is around the corner. They'll also spend their free time at home in the parks and other attractions or go shopping in cities' commercial buildings. And they can even get sick and become unemployed as well. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see just how much all this new life path and citizen simulation stuff impacts your gameplay. You know, if you're getting a sim that's lost their job and become homeless, or you get a sim that's become sick and lost their job due to sickness, is that something we're manually going to have to go and deal with from a gameplay perspective, or is it just an icon or a little bit of data that changes to reflect that information? So they're putting a lot of emphasis on citizen happiness now. Now the happiness mechanic in City Skylines 1 was essentially non-existent. If you just put parks down, you were fine. The whole medical system, there wasn't really one. People never really got sick. They were essentially just parks that made people happier. And pretty much everyone always had full happiness in Cities 1, because if you don't, they would just abandon it and leave anyway. So now there's several different factors that are going to contribute to citizen happiness in Cities 2, including well-being, which is their mental state and sense of safety. Which is why I think it would have been cool to have pets increase mental state. If mental state is factored in, surely pets would have been a good thing to improve that. I don't know. I'm a dog owner, so I'm probably a little bit biased towards that. I have obviously the cocoa beans, who will throw a quick picture up on screen of during the edit today as well. I think Short makes us very happy, doesn't she? But you must satisfy basic needs, having reliable electricity and clean water, as well as sufficient sewage treatment so their toilets don't overflow, as well as making sure that their garbage isn't piling up and they're not living under a massive cloud of pollution. That's kind of how happiness works in CS1, isn't it? You just want to make sure you've got all your basic services provided for, which I guess is what they said in the dev diary, you know, get the basics right and people will be happy. And it also goes on to say that the new postal service and internet connectivity are important for keeping people happy as well. So now it comes on to talk about the health mechanic, which, as we mentioned earlier in the video, was a bit of a joke in CS1, the whole healthcare system. You could have a city of 140,000 and maybe 10 people would actually be sick. It just wasn't really there. So health is affected by the availability of healthcare in the form of passive health boost by living in close proximity to a medical facility, i.e. clinic or a hospital. Living in areas affected by ground and air pollution will have a negative impact on your citizens' health, with the stronger the pollution being, the more severe the effect. So citizens can now become sick even if they are not directly affected by any of the aforementioned causes. The probability of becoming sick depends on the health of the citizen. A higher health will reduce the risk of getting sick with a cold. However, when a citizen does become sick, their health decreases greatly. Sick citizens will travel to the nearest medical facility to get treatment, but if their condition is too poor to travel, they will ring for an ambulance. We saw in the trailer as well, didn't we, that there was a little kind of ambulance icon that they have signaled for an ambulance. They can't get there themselves. So that's really cool. I'm really happy to see a properly fleshed out healthcare mechanic. I think it's a big part of a city simulator and wasn't at all present in the first game. So after your Sims have been treated when they're sick, their health will start to improve. However, they also have a chance of dying alongside that as well. The probability is relatively low in general, but it is related to the citizen's current health level. Obviously, the lower the health, the higher risk of death, of course. So in our age groups, like I mentioned in the video, we will get children, teens, adults, and seniors in the cities, with families comprising of multiple generations. So interesting that as citizens get older, their education options will change and their health will also vary. So children and teens have a health boost, while seniors' health boost slowly decreases. Their age also determines their ability to work, and every citizen can choose to work once they reach the teen age group, which is really interesting, although some will prefer to continue their education before finding a job. So we learned quite a lot about their preferences from the pathfinding dev diary, didn't we, about how they prefer to move around, whether they go for parking or take public transport if it's cheaper. Fuel costs also factoring in as well, so it's kind of touching on the same information here again. So the new life path journal is pretty cool, a way to document. We can have a lot of fun, I think, naming our patrons after our first initial Sims. In Cities 2, when we do start our series, I think it's going to be quite a lot of fun, isn't it? Being able to name some of our patrons after the Sims in the city. But the life path journal records everything from the added citizens from the moment they are followed. The journal entry lists their name, their home address, current occupation, their happiness and other information, as well as their Chirper feed. And it goes on to say that a keen player can spot the connections between the citizens' surroundings, such as education options, job opportunities, and living conditions, to the changes in their lives, the jobs they get, and the choices that they make. So I'll kind of come back to my point on all this citizen simulation stuff. I don't want this to come across as though I'm not excited for it. I think it's a really cool addition into the game. I just think once you've done it, maybe the first 4 or 5 times, are you going to keep coming back to do it? Let me know, because I think everyone's going to have quite a different opinion on that. I can see myself doing it for the sake of videos and having fun with the subscribers, but I think when it's just me playing Cities 2, that's not something I'm going to go and check on, I don't think. Let me know what you think of it, and whether or not it's something you care about from a gameplay perspective. However, I do think it's really cool the fact that the number of likes that a chirp has indicates how much of a problem that is in the city. I think that's a really cool way to make Chirper a bit more actually important. And the citizens will also chirp about their own lives. It feels so weird saying they chirp about it. But they will chirp about moving in together and breaking up, finding a job, and so on and so forth. So hopefully they'll be a bit more impactful than just the generic Cities 1 chirps this time. So now let's talk about criminal behaviour. So citizens can become criminals. The probability of this is relatively low. but the chance is increased if their well-being mechanic is low as well. When this happens, the citizen will commit a crime to earn income by first selecting the target of their criminal activity. The target will always be a building where a robbery takes place and is selected by comparing the buildings in the city and their crime probability values. The final choice is a random pick from a group of buildings with the highest crime probability values. The citizens living in the building targeted by the criminal will suffer a temporary loss of well-being. So really cool to see a proper criminal mechanic introduced into the game, isn't it? You're going to see here, you can see there's that Jacqueline Hadley is currently in the middle of robbing someone and is running away. It's very cool. I really didn't expect them to include something like that. So proper crime and medical mechanics, a big thumbs up in my books for CS2. When a criminal is arrested, the police will take them to a jail located at police stations and police headquarters. There are a portion of the arrested criminals are sentenced to serve time in prison, even if the city is one available or one at an outside connection. If one isn't available in your connection, so they will be, I guess, deported out of the city if you can't imprison them there. Citizens who are not sentenced to prison are released and their criminal status is reset, just like criminals who have served time in prison. Once released, they rejoin society as a regular citizen. Depending on their age, citizens can die of old age when serving their prison sentence as well. I wonder which of our patrons are going to become criminals as we begin to play CS2. So now it comes on to mention a bit about tourists and how they're factored in. So they will stay at a local hotel whilst in the city and make choices daily whether to visit one of the city's attractions and commercial areas or stay at the hotel. This will be determined by the city's attractiveness value, and that's going to also dictate how many tourists are drawn into the city as well. And this value can be increased by building parks and obviously various other tourist attraction style buildings as well. So now we'll come on to talk about citizen conditions, which are essentially 7 different stages that your citizens will be in. If something goes wrong, this can be a victim of crime, or not having enough sewage, or being in a cloud of pollution, etc. It will cause them to enter several different conditions. So these are sick, so sick citizens will not work as long as they remain sick, and they're also at an increased risk of dying as well. They can also become injured, where again they will not work, and they can become injured when involved in traffic accidents, or a building fire, or in a building collapse, or other natural disasters. They will of course become homeless, which we know about now as well. We've covered homelessness before in a previous dev diary. They can also become unwell, which is citizens who have a very low well-being value. If their happiness decreases so much to the point that they do become unwell, then their contribution to work is negatively affected, and they also are at a high risk of becoming criminals too. Citizens will also become weak by losing too much of their health value. Being weak will decrease their happiness and negatively affects their contributions to work as well. Just like being unwell also affects that too. Weak citizens are at a high risk of becoming sick, and when a weak citizen does become sick, their health value decreases to very low, putting them at a much higher risk of dying. They can also become distressed, where citizens who are in danger or trapped are distressed. Obviously, it's pretty self-explanatory, isn't it? Citizens are in danger when they are in a burning building, while trapped citizens are involved in a building collapse who are buried under the rubble. Sometimes citizens who are in a burning building can also become trapped, unable to escape. And lastly, they will also be evacuated, which I guess is another condition for them. Evacuated citizens are in an emergency shelter. They will travel to an emergency shelter by themselves or be picked up by the evacuation bus, but of course that does depend if indeed you are playing with natural disasters on or off. It'll be cool to see, won't it, if we get any kind of new conditions that are added with DLC packs further down the line, whether this mechanic is going to remain relatively untouched for the lifespan of Cities 2. So it's definitely more complex than it is in Cities 1, there's a lot more going on. But otherwise guys, that is going to do it for today and the last of the dev diaries. As I mentioned at the start of the video, the next ones are on sound and music and then the cinematic camera mode, which I don't think we need to make kind of these in-depth video looks at those 2 particular topics. It's not overly interesting, I think, for what we're interested in. So this will be the last bit of CS2 content you get from me until the 8th of September, where we will be playing the game and recording a video for you guys, which we probably will premiere on the channel as well. So do keep an eye out for the time on the 8th of September if you'd like to come and watch me play Cities Skylines 2 for the first time. It's going to be a lot of fun, I think. I hope you're going to enjoy it alongside with me. Well, there we go. That is it for the Dev Diaries. Thank you for watching this series. I hope you've enjoyed a little kind of preview build-up in this casual format that we've taken on over the last, I guess, 10, 11 weeks now, isn't it? It's been going on for a bloody long time. But in today's video, I'm really happy to see the introduction of a proper health and crime system. I felt they were sorely lacking from Cities Skylines 1, essentially made those buildings just super expensive parks. You could get away with not having a clinic for a very long time. And even then, you can just have one clinic that's servicing 100,000 people. It was kind of a little silly. So happy to see proper healthcare introduced into the city alongside the crime system as well. I think that's really cool. That, you know, people will lose their jobs, become homeless, have like a low well-being, and then turn to crime. That's very in-depth. I don't think I've seen any other city simulator do that before. So really cool to see that happening. I've thought on the back of that as well, it'd be really cool if we see protests at some point as well, maybe if a policy you enact or a building that you place or a decision that you make would result in protests. City State 2, if you haven't played that game, handled protests really well, but maybe that would be a condition that's added with the DLC. But otherwise, let's please keep that Cities 2 conversation going down below. And as always, let me know what you think of what's been talked about here today. How keen are you on keeping track of your Sims lives and what they're up to? Is it something you're going to be checking as soon as you load your save, or is it something you're going to check 4 or 5 times and then never look at again? Let me know what you think of all this kind of stuff. I'll leave you with the full trailer again, but otherwise I will see you on the 8th of September for some first Cities Skylines 2 content on the channel. Otherwise, let's thank you all so much for watching. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day.
You might think that city building is all about glass and steel, bricks and mortar, tarmac, smokestacks, and iron tracks. But it's also about joy and laughter, sadness and tears, struggles, triumphs, even love. That's because city building is about people. While the behavior of your city citizens is rooted in deep simulation, they aren't guided by ones and zeros. They follow very real human impulses on their life path. A life path encompasses major events that shape their lives. It starts with being born in or moving to your city. Everything after that, from their first day of school to college graduation, their first big promotion to retirement, their nervous first date to tying the knot, is just another step on their life path. Most days will be uneventful. Citizens will follow a routine of attending school, working, and spending free time with friends and family. But like the rest of us, they'll have good days and bad. Citizens can fall ill, suffer accidents, lose their job and become homeless, commit crimes and face the consequences. On the flip side, citizens reap the benefits when your city thrives. These happy citizens stay and contribute as they get older, until it's their time to line up at heaven's pearly gates. Happiness is something you can actually measure in Cities Skylines 2. It's a score that tallies an individual's health and well-being. You can track happiness on each citizen's information panel. View the panel for their household to learn what's contributing or detracting from their collective happiness. Get the basics right, and citizens will basically be happy. Ensure they have a reliable electricity supply, clean water, decent plumbing, and regular garbage collection. Minimize ground, air, and noise pollution. Keep a lid on crime so citizens feel safe. High-speed internet is pretty much a must-have, and so is a suitable home. Families need space, so they'll benefit from living in larger homes in low-density areas where kids can roam freely. Small apartments are best for singles and students who want low rents in busy areas where they can go out and socialize. Healthcare is non-negotiable. Without it, citizens can die from illness and injuries. Even with good sanitation and low pollution, citizens need medical facilities near enough to travel on their own steam or by ambulance for routine care. This is especially important for your city's elderly population, whose health won't always be tip-top. Seniors are actually in the last of the 4 life stages your citizens will experience. They might even live in a multi-generational home with citizens in the other life stages, including children, teens, and adults. And look out for 4-legged family members too. Keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening with your citizens by viewing their life path journal. It records everything that happens to them from the moment you click follow. It'll show you personal details, their happiness score, and their Chirper feed. Oh, and one more thing, Chirper is back. Expanded and better integrated, Chirper now gives citizens a voice. They'll talk about what's going on in their lives and what's happening in the city. If their chirps get likes, you know just how important that topic is to them and other citizens. This can be helpful when they chirp to complain about underperforming city services and applaud their excellent work. When it comes to the health, well-being, and happiness of your citizens, think quality, not quantity. By creating places, spaces, and experiences that enrich their lives, you'll discover what city building is all about.